This episode of Trestle Tactics is proudly presented by Gordon Food Service.
Welcome to Trestle Tactics, a tips from Trestle Short. We wanted to know what's going to make our podcasts more valuable to you. And the answers were simple. You want easy to implement tactics and strategies that will let you create an outstanding experience around your senior living food and hospitality programming. So let's dive in right now on today's Trestle Tactics. Welcome to this week's episode of Trestle Tactics. This week, we're continuing our lean thinking and operational excellence series with Gordon Food Service by welcoming in Tiffany Nabozny and Dana Fillmore. They're going to talk to us about how we can work smarter and optimize our kitchen production systems. Ladies, take it away.
Hello, my name is Dana Fillmore, and I work at Gordon Food Service as the Senior Living and Healthcare Solutions Strategy Manager.
And my name is Tiffany Nabozny. I also work at Gordon Food Service as the Technology Enablement Manager for the Senior Living and Healthcare segment.
So we're both here today to continue the theme in the Lean Thinking series, and we're going to spend a little bit of time highlighting how to work smarter, not harder in the kitchen. We know that the actual production of the food is one of the most frequent, time-intensive, and expensive tasks that our teams do each and every day. Finding efficiencies here can bring you a lot of time and money savings. So, Tiffany, you've spent a lot of time in your career in a lot of different kitchens. What are some of the common time and money wasters you see during food production?
Well, that's a great question because boy, have I seen a lot of them. I would say the things that I see the most that kind of are really frustrating would be not using recipes in general. There's so many kitchens that I have gone in and they're just like, oh, the chef or the cook says, oh, I know how to cook this. I don't need a recipe. Or what's really interesting is they might have a recipe, but it's such an intricate recipe and it doesn't match the staff that they have on hand. It's maybe too complicated of a recipe. So you might see a recipe, but the staff that they have cannot pull it off. And so what you get are frustrated staff, you get inconsistent products, and you sometimes just get poor products, making the residents pretty unhappy because they don't like what's now being served.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really, from a whole lack of recipe, but also just the recipe not matching the staff on hand.
Those are some really good examples. And you mentioned the time it takes for some recipes. And I often see a lot of frustration in kitchens when they're short on staff, which a lot of people are right now, and they're dealing with a labor heavy recipe that they have to make. Talk to us about how convenience items and some speed scratch swaps might help save some time.
Well, the old adage, what is it? Time is money, right? So
Right.
we are all short on money these days and time, I think, especially when it comes to our staff, if we don't have enough of them. So I think that speed scratch and convenience products can really play a strong role in our kitchens, no matter the type of kitchen. I know I use it at home in my own kitchen, making some of dinners for my family. It's important to know that speed scratch is okay. Convenience is okay for the right recipes, and everyone is different. What might work in your kitchen is not going to work in a different kitchen. You have to really look to see what is the cost benefit analysis. Will you be using less labor because of this product? Will you have a more consistent product that's going to make your residents happy? Will it be more food safe? Well, there's all those different considerations that you need to think about before you do this, but it can really pay off in the end, making your staff happier as well as your residents.
Yeah, and I sometimes hear the conflict of processed foods aren't good for you.
Mm.
Highly processed foods doesn't equal convenience foods. There's a lot of convenience foods out there that are not processed. So
Produce. Produce
right,
is a huge
exactly.
example. I mean, especially when we've got maybe inexperienced or untrained staff that need, and your recipe calls for a quarter inch diced onion. Well, you can easily buy that already done. Chopping lettuce, making sure you're not wasting too much. There's so many things that are out there that they've just done the work for us, and it becomes a much better product in the end for everybody.
You mentioned something to me earlier when we were talking about the frequency to use an item.
There's nothing quite like taste to take you home. When flavors bring you back to county fairs, and sweetness incites stories of fresh fruits and farmers markets. Whether it's the bold notes of a big city or the rich profile of a coastal getaway, Gordon Choice regional favorites taste like home.
Yes, that is a great call out because I always like to use the rule of three. What does that mean is if you're going to order or if you're going to buy something and it's only going to be used in one recipe, it's probably not worth it's the juice is not worth the
You're
squeeze.
gonna waste the
You're going
product
to
if the
waste
prep
it.
size is too big.
Correct. The shelf life is probably not going to be there. So I like to use the rule of three, meaning that you're going to use it in at least three different recipes or have at least three different uses for that product to really get the most bang for your buck out of that.
So that's a call out action item for us to look at our recipes. What products are we using? Is there a product that will help us save time that we can put in 3 recipes?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
Rule of three.
Wonderful. Yes. So, okay, beyond convenience and speed scratch, I also think it's smart to take a step back and think about your staffing patterns.
Mhm.
Because if there's a time, you have a time where you have more workers than other times, right? So you know that in the evenings, you're usually well staffed, but in the afternoons or the mornings, you're having hard time finding staff. So one thing that is helpful is to look at when to schedule some of the prep for these labor intensive recipes.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can move the prep to a time you have more people.
Mhm. Or even, I always like to call it grilled cheese and tomato soup day.
Mhm.
When that's everyone loves that. And it's a great thing to serve on your menu. Very little prep except for the sandwich. But in terms of that's a great time to pull some of those prep, chopping and different things like that to prepare for those times in which it's going to be more labor intensive.
Great, great. Yeah. So really, again, taking time out to think and look at your staffing patterns and
Planning.
that with your
Planning.
menu.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, let's move on, and I would love to take a minute to talk about how technology can help
Um,
us save time. I often walk into an operation, even today, and see things handwritten. Do you see that?
I do, which is crazy. I mean, just because as a former operator myself who used to handwrite her menus and then found menu software, it was a game changer. It freed up my time and saved me money on my budget. So I think it is an absolute essential tool to put in your operation to make for a successful food service, for it to make your customers happy, your residents happy, your boss happy. Everyone is happy when things are meeting budget and people are eating well. It's whether you're looking at your menu cost, a recipe cost, understanding if you need to switch a product out, those scaled recipes that are so important. I can't say enough about the importance of a menu software program.
take advantage of the technology that's available.
Yes.
And no matter what the technology is, it's certainly important from a recipe, menu,
Yes.
inventory, and even robots and serving these days.
For
Lots of
sure.
opportunity.
Again, it's a little bit different for everyone, but that menu software, there's a tool out there that will meet your needs. And it's, again, working smarter, not harder.
Harder. Well said. I mean, that's our third takeaway. Make sure you have a good recipe menu software. So I think it's time for us to wrap up. And thank you all for listening. And we hope that we sparked a few reminders that will help you maximize your team's productivity and work smarter, not harder.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for sharing your insights and wisdom, Tiffany and Dana. And thank you, listeners, for joining us as we continue this series on lean management and operational excellence. Join us in 2 weeks when we'll continue this series with Molly and Nancy from the GFS team as they start to explore efficient purchasing practices and how that ties into operational excellence. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Trestle Tactics. Be sure to like and subscribe on any of our channels, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to us. Also, be sure to follow us on any of your social media channels at Tips from Trestle. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of Trestle Tactics.